Yes, I appreciate it. I'm super excited to be here today and really looking forward to our bigger talk in just a couple of weeks. Just to clarify, I am a doctor, but I'm not a veterinarian. I get that question a lot. My background is in applied cognitive psychology, and I focus on adult learning. So learning is my passion, and that's why I'm here today, and that's what we'll be talking about. So in my presentation on the 17th, I'm going to cover really three main learning outcomes that I'm hoping you find interesting. I certainly do. The first one is the role of microlearning in our industry. The second one is the role of social learning in our industry. And the third one being how to use checklists or formal skill lists effectively, and how the three of them really tie together to provide, this ongoing learning experience once our technicians leave their colleges and their license and credential. They obviously want to continue learning, but what's the best format? I doubt that, once you are hitting the practice and you work full time, a lot of us find the time to sit down and once we get home, open a textbook and say, okay, today I'm going to read a little bit about XYZ. Well, some of you people might do that. I think it's just it's not catering to our technology fluent learners, right? This generation of people coming out of colleges is very technology focused, and there's been a lot of research around microlearning and how beneficial it is in terms of retention, but also how it mimics, some of the learning principles that we engage with on a day-to-day basis. As an example, I installed a Ring alarm system in my house a couple of days ago, and I didn't read the instruction manual, but when I ran into a question or I didn't know how to, it's funny, how to unarm the alarm, something I should have probably read on before I armed it. I just, went on my phone and I typed in how to unarm Ring. And that's the idea of microlearning. It's that in the moment, in the occasion learning, you need to know how to do something. You need to know it now. You don't necessarily have time to get out the instructional manual or get out the textbook and read, but you want to have the information right here presentable. And usually, the idea of having a phone on us is something that on a day-to-day basis, we do a lot. I think in our practices, we still need to educate on the benefits of having a phone on us. I know a lot of practices are against that idea, but I think if they're used effectively, then there's huge benefit to it. We just need to have some processes and some rules around phone use, obviously, on the floor. So if you think about, this in-the-moment learning, this micro-learning idea, it's quick, it's easy. Those videos, those how-to videos are accessible right when I need the information. So as a technician, if I have something coming in, maybe something that's a situation I haven't really dealt with before, or maybe I've shadowed a couple of people, but I'm not quite 100% confident in how to do it. Maybe it's a positioning for an X-ray or something like that. The idea of microlearning is that this technician can access, the content, the learning content in that very moment on their phone real quick, feel confident, and then go through the task and have, obviously better patient care and better outcome because they feel that confidence of having it done correctly. So that's the idea of microlearning, really like short videos that are task oriented. And on Ignite, we offer a lot of microlearning videos for different, areas of the hospital, the hospital's operational principles. The second piece I want to talk about is social learning. So social learning is a really interesting construct, and it's really been built up in the last, I would say probably 2 to 5 years. The idea is that if we create a learning cohort with people who are like-minded, who have the same passions, and we exchange our, not just passions, but knowledge as well, that we really up our retention. So if I'm with this group of people who think the same way, who have the same questions, we elevate each other, right? It's almost like rising tides lift all boats. And I believe as an industry, this is really what we're here for, right? It's patient care is our focus, no matter where we work or what hospital we're with, but we all want to give the best to our patients. So if we can share the knowledge, share the wealth, share the love, and lift each other up, we're giving back, right? So the idea is, think about the scenario with the textbook I mentioned earlier. You're most likely not gonna go home after a 10-hour shift and you're gonna open your textbook and say, I'm gonna read about XYZ, and then tomorrow maybe I'm going to ask this other technician what they felt like is important about XYZ. That's just not how it works, right? First of all, nobody has time, as I said earlier before, to really sit down and read textbook sections on their free time. But then also it's not as engaging or fun. So the idea of social learning is that we have a platform that really engages the learner, that has the micro-learning accessible, right, as well, just talked about, but then also allows the learners to engage and interact with each other. So I guess questions, I can get on the spot feedback because I have this cohort of like-minded people that are working with me in the broader field of veterinary industry, and that I can give back to the community can give back to me. As an example, if we look at Ignite, it looks and kind of feels like the social platforms we're used to, something like Facebook, but it's not Facebook, right? It is work oriented. It has nothing to do with Facebook. It is a platform that's only focused on learning. It's not really about, oh, look what I got for my birthday. It's really about focusing on our skills, our frameworks, and making us better learners and better at patient care. So if we go on there and I can post something saying, hey, I have a question around X-ray positioning, where I really just don't understand why we have to do X, Y, Z in this process. So I'm having some challenges with math calculations. Other people, from around the country can chime in and say, you know what, this resource that I found or this website is really good at explaining X, Y, Z. Or here's a micro-learning video that I found that really explains how to do the math. So sharing these resources on the spot is a lot more fun than the textbook search, obviously. So that's the idea of social learning, right? We have this known format, we have an engaging interface, and we can connect with people, right? And I think that's incredibly important in these times, not just because of COVID, but if you look at our industry as a whole, we really need a support system for our people, right? I believe that because we see and we hear those terms, compassion fatigue, burnout, people are leaving the industry, and ultimately, our suicide rate is just too high, period. We have to stop the bleed. We have to stop losing our people. So having a community of like-minded people who go through the same challenges, who face the same problems, who are dealing, with life and death questions, as a framework for emotional and, I would say, well-being, emotional health and well-being, is something that I believe can really also, again, raise all boats, rising tides lift all boats, right? Because they understand what it's like. They can make an empathetic connection with what you're experiencing at a hospital because they most likely have gone through something similar. So that having that safety, knowing that I'm in a group of people I can trust, I might not even know these guys, right? They can be all across the country, but I know they're walking that same walk every day, gives a lot of comfort. And I think that's incredibly important in times of, just stress and a lot of change and uncertainty. And then last but not least is the idea of formal skills lists. So if we put all this together, we construct this learning framework where we have our micro-learning available, we give social learning on top of it, but how do we demonstrate that we actually know how to do X, right? I think in the past, we've relied a lot on kind of shadowing and just like some subjective evaluations of, yeah, I think this technician can place a catheter. I've seen him do it once. There is something to be said for a more formal approach to really documenting the skill level of our technicians. And those, I believe, are formal skill checklists, where our technicians can demonstrate a skill, and maybe there's a signature behind it from someone who has to witness this, ideally more than once, right? Because maybe we just got lucky that one time. So have like 2 or 3 signatures that are aligned with the positions that we have at the hospital. So these checklists are incredibly helpful if you think about merit-based pay or job leveling. If you want to say, okay, we have a technician level 1, technician level 2, 3, surgery, etc. Saying in order to be considered for this level or for this merit increase, you need to be able to demonstrate all these skills. And really, it's also very gratifying, right? So if we come out of college, we got our degree and we're excited, ready to work, there's another thing that we can keep on expanding our knowledge. We have a paper, people sign off on it, and it sure makes you feel good if once you've completed everything and you can say, hey, you know what? I am officially in my hospital qualified to do the job of a technician level 2 or 3. So that's the whole framework for what I believe can make learning past graduation successful at our practices. It is self-directed, it's engaging, it's fun, and it gives people an opportunity to really hold themselves accountable to their own skill development. So if you want to go somewhere, if you're here and you want to get your skill level up to here, we're giving you the tools and we're giving you all the tricks, but you have to apply them. You have to choose which ones are applicable to your skill level or proficiency level. And there's really no limit. You can learn as much or as little as you want. But I know our people, so they usually want to learn more and they want to learn a lot. So continuously producing content is something that obviously makes microlearning effective and makes it for an effective implementation at the practice. So those are the 3 topics. Again, we're going to focus on microlearning, with fun little engaging videos showing you how to do things. We're going to focus on social learning, so how we build a community with like-minded learners and how they can lift each other up to become more knowledgeable. And last but not least, formal skill checklists to create a level of knowledge that is not only accountable to whoever we're reporting to, but also to our own learning journey. And that's it.
Thank you very much for sharing with us. So I just want to ask, and you may have covered it and I might have missed it. I'm sorry if I did. How did this come about? Like this idea of microlearning, social learning, and then the checklist, like how did that come about?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jess. My background is in learning, and I didn't really have my plan was not to really stay in veterinary medicine. I just happened to have a part-time job as a graduate student at the vet clinic. And I saw the need for some improvement because what we had done at the clinic historically was would follow this person, watch them do it, and then at some point, you'll likely learn and know how to do this. And that's really ineffective, right? As a learning professional, my hair stood up and I'm like, oh, there's so many better ways. So what if we take, these proven skills from cognitive psychology and learning psychology, and we apply them into the vet learning space? And that's really what this is. Microlearning is not exclusive to the veterinary space. Microlearning is used across the board as a stellar, adult learning technique. And the same with social learning. It's the same idea, it's used all over the place, and we're still kind of a step behind in veterinary medicine because, we have this idea, we maybe had this idea. I'm hoping that we're going to change our beliefs that just watching people is going to solve the issue. A great question, Jess.
Thank you for answering that and sharing. I don't see any questions coming through right now, but we do have a comment saying that they're very, very excited about these topics and happy that you're here and sharing. So, if anyone has any last minute questions, or if there's anything that you want to expand upon, or give a little more of a teaser for October 17th? We'd be happy to hear.
More of a teaser, let's see. Well, I'm obviously super passionate about this, and I think the beautiful thing is that it's self-directed. I mentioned that briefly towards the end, but a learner can really pick and choose, what they need in the moment to be successful. Let's talk about microlearning. For example, if you have to do a blood draw on a snake, it's not something that I might be doing every day. There is a microlearning video for it, so I can check that out, refresh my brain. Like, okay, I remember this now. I feel good. I can do this. But it's also a huge opportunity for practice management to create a hospital curriculum for the specific needs of their practice. So when I was talking about the job leveling and the merit increases and the checklists, there's a real opportunity to say, okay, in order for me to confidently say this technician has reached level 1, they're going to have this checklist. I can decide, what's going to be on this checklist. And then with the help of this microlearning content, I can put it together my learning curriculum, right? I can say, okay, for example, one of the checklist items is how to draw blood on a snake. If you do not know how to do this, here are some resources. So people can access the microlearning content on a self-directed path or on a more, hospital-driven path in terms of this is what you need to know to get to the next level or to go to a different role.
Perfect. We did just have a question come in. Do you think the see one, do one, teach one idea works within this?
Yeah, no, I really believe it does. And the only thing I would say is, seeing and doing, it depends on what it is and what exactly you're working with, what kind of process. The doing might be, 3-4 times. It really depends, how difficult whatever it is we're trying to see, do, and teach. So I think we just have to be careful to not translate see, do, and apply or teach to a shadowing approach, but adding a strong accountability piece with it. For example, a checklist where you have to prove this 3 times, and then you're going to the showing, right? Like you're showing it to me. It's almost like the teach moment, and then showing it or teaching it to others would be that last accountability piece, right? That you can say, okay, I really know you got this because you can show it to others effectively. So yes, the answer is I totally believe this works. Just think we need to be careful with the accountability piece to make sure that it's not a shadowing setup.